Jai Tulsi Maharani ki Jai. Okay, class. Jaya Radhamadhuva Kunya Bihari
Radhamadhava Kunya Bihari
Radhamadhuva Kunya Bihari
Kunja Bihari
Gopi Janabalabha Kirivardhanagute
Gopi Janabalabha Girivardhari
Gopi Janabalabha Girivardhanagute
Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari
Yasudanandana Braja Janaranjana
Nandana Braja Janaranjana
Yasudanandana Braja Janaranjana
Nandana Braja Janaranjana
Munatira Banachare
Munatira Vanachari
Munatira Manachare
Munatira Vanachari
Madhura Kunya Bihari
Radhamadhava Kunya Bihari
Jaya Radha Madhava Kunya Bihari
Radhamadhava Kunya Bihari
Janabalabha Girivardhanagute
Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari
Gopi Janabalabha Girivardhanagute
Gopi Janavallabha Girivardhari
Sudanandana Prajana Nandana Prajana Ranjana Yamunatira Vanachari Yamunatira Vanachari Kayoran Madhuva Kunya Bihari
Kunja Bihari
Kayoran Madhuva Kunya Bihari
Kunja Bihari
Jai Om Vishnu Pad Paramahamsa Paravatikacharya Alstateta Satishi Shimad His Divine Grace Abhaya Chandranad Bhaktivedanta Goswami Srila Prabhupada ki jai. ISKCON founder Acharya. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda ki jai. Namacharya Srila Vedas Thakur ki jai. Prem say Kaho Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shidwaita Gadadha Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Shri Radha Krishna Gopika Padartha Shyama Kunda Radha Kunda Giri Govardhan ki jai. Vrindavanam ki jai. Mathuram ki jai. Jagadada Sami ki jai. Munamai ki jai. Shimani Lasadevi ki jai. Samveda Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Gaur Premananda Hari Hari Bol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glorious the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Shrimati Bhaktivedanta Swami Chiramani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pacharni Nivashesha Shanyavadi Paschatya Deja Tarane. So we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, 3rd canto, 29th chapter, texts 11 to 12, and we're just going to do 11 responsively, and then we'll go on. I'll just read 12. So, Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
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 Mad
Mad
Guna
Guna
Shruti
Shruti
329:11. Matrena
Matrena
Mai
Mai
Sarva
Sarva
Guhashaye
Guhashaye
Mano
Mano
Gatir
Gatir
Avichinna
Chinna
Yata
Yata
Gangabaso
Gangabaso
Ambuda
Buddha
Madguna Shruti Matrena
Guna Shruti Matrena
Mai Sarva Gunhashaye
Mai Sarva Guhashaye
Manogatira Vichinna
Manogatir Avichinna
Yata Gangamba Sombuddha
Yatha Gangam Vasam Buddha
Madguna Shruti Matrena
Guna Shruti Matrena
Mai Sarva Guhashaye
Mai Sarva Guhashaye
Manogatira Vichinna
Manogatir Avichinna
Yata Gangamba Sombuddha
Yatha Gangam Vasam Buddha
Madguna Shruti Matrena
Guna Shruti Matrena
Mai Sarva Guhashaye
Mai Sarva Guhashaye
Manogatira Vichinna
Manogatir Avichinna
Yatha Gangamba Sombuddha.
Yatha Gangam Vasam Buddha
Okay.
Madguna Shruti Matrena
Madguna Shruti Matrena
Mai Sarva Guhashaye
Mai Sarva Guhashaye
Manogatira Vichinna
Manogatir Avichinna
Yata Gangamba Sambuddho
Yatha Gangam Vasam Buddha
Madguna Shruti Matrena
Madguna Shruti Matrena
Mai Sarva Guhashaye
Mai Sarva Guhashaye
Manogatir Vichinna
Manogatir Avichinna
यथा गङ्गाम्बसंबुधौ
यथा गङ्गाम्बसंबुधौ
मद्गुणश्रुतिमात्रेण
मद्गुणश्रुतिमात्रेण
मयि सर्वगुहाशये
मयि सर्वगुहाशये
मनोगतिरविच्छिन्ना
मनोगतिरविच्छिन्ना
यथा गङ्गाम्बसंबुधौ
यथा गङ्गाम्बसंबुधौ
मद्गुणश्रुतिमात्रेण
मद्गुणश्रुतिमात्रेण
मयि सर्वागुहाशये
मयि सर्वगुहाशये
मनोगतिरविचिन्ता
मनोगतिरविच्छिन्ना
यथा गङ्गाम्बसंबुधौ
यथा गङ्गाम्बसंबुधौ
मद्गुणश्रुतिमात्रेण
मद्गुणश्रुतिमात्रेण
मयि सर्वागुहाशये
मयि सर्वगुहाशये
मनोगतिरविच्छिन्ना
मनोगतिरविच्छिन्ना
यथा गङ्गाम्बसंबुधौ
यथा गङ्गाम्बसंबुधौ
मद्गुणश्रुतिमात्रेण
मद्गुणश्रुतिमात्रेण
मयि सर्वागुहाशये
मयि सर्वगुहाशये
मनोगतिरविच्छिन्ना
मनोगतिरविच्छिन्ना
यथा गङ्गाम्बसंबुधौ
यथा गङ्गाम्बसंबुधौ.
All right, now let's read the next text and we'll do word by word synonyms. Lakshanam bhakti yogasya nirgunasya yudaritam ahaitukya vyavahita ya bhakti purushottame. Okay. But
Mat
of me,
of me,
guna, quality, Shruti,
Shruti,
by hearing,
by hearing,
Matrena,
Matrena,
just,
just,
Mai,
Mani,
towards me,
towards me,
Sarva Guha Ashaye,
Sarvaguhashe,
residing in everyone's heart,
residing in everyone's heart,
Amanagate,
Managati,
the heart's course,
the heart's course,
Avichinda,
Avichinna,
continuous,
continuous,
Yata,
Yata,
as,
as,
Ganga,
Ganga,
of the Ganges,
of the Ganges,
Ambasa,
Ambasa,
of the water,
of the water,
Ambuda,
Buddha,
towards the ocean,
towards the ocean,
Lakshanam,
Lakshana,
the manifestation,
the manifestation,
Bhakti Yoga Sham,
Bhakti Yogasya,
of devotional service,
of devotional service,
Nirguna Sham,
Gunasya,
unadulterated,
unadulterated,
He, indeed,
indeed,
Unaritam,
Bhagavatam,
exhibited,
exhibited,
Ahaitaki,
Ahitaki,
causeless,
causeless,
of Yavahita,
Avyavahita,
not separated,
not separated,
Ya, which, Bhakti,
Bhakti,
devotional service,
devotional service,
Purusha Uttame,
Purusha Uttame,
towards the Supreme Personality of Godhead.
towards the Supreme Personality of God.
Here's the translation. The manifestation of unadulterated devotional service is exhibited when one's mind is at once attracted to hearing the transcendental name and qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is residing in everyone's heart. Just as the water of the Ganges flows naturally down towards the ocean, such devotional ecstasy, uninterrupted by any material condition, flows towards the Supreme Lord. So, purport, by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. The basic principle of this unadulterated, pure devotional service is love of Godhead. Madguna Shruti Matrena means just after hearing about the transcendental qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. These qualities are called nirguna, means without the modes of nature. The Supreme Lord is uncontaminated by the modes of material nature, therefore he is attractive to the pure devotee. There's no need to practice meditation to attain such attraction. The pure devotee is already in the transcendental stage, and the affinity between him and the Supreme Personality of Godhead is natural and compared to the Ganges water flowing towards the sea. The flow of the Ganges water cannot be stopped by any condition. Similarly, a pure devotee's attraction for the transcendental name, form, and pastimes of the Supreme Godhead cannot be stopped by any material condition. The word avichinal, without interruptions, is very important in this connection. No material condition can stop the flow of the devotional service of a pure devotee. The word ahoituki means without reason. A pure devotee does not render loving service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead for any cause or for any benefit, material or spiritual. Remember that? This is the first symptom of unalloyed devotion. Andhya vilashita shunyam. C.C. Madhulika, 19:167. He has no desire to fulfill by rendering devotional service. Such devotional service is meant for the Purushottama, the Supreme Personality, and not for anyone else. Sometimes pseudo-devotees show devotion to many demigods, thinking the forms of the demigods to be the same as the Supreme Personality of Godhead's form. It is specifically mentioned herein, however, that bhakti devotional service is meant only for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Narayan, Vishnu, or Krishna, not for anyone else. Avya Walkita means without cessation. A pure devotee must engage in the service of the Lord 24 hours a day without cessation. His life is so molded that every minute and every second he engages in some sort of devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Another meaning of the word avyal or hita is that interest of the devotee and the interest of the Supreme Lord are on the same level. The devotee has no interest but to fulfill the transcendental desire of the Supreme Lord. Such spontaneous service unto the Supreme Lord is transcendental and is never contaminated by the material modes of nature. These are the symptoms of pure devotional service, which is free from all contamination of material nature. So, Om Gana Timiranda Shah, Yadanjana Shalakya Chakshur, Unmilitam Yena Tasmai, Shri Gurave Namaha. So this verse is the culmination of this whole description. There's given of the modes of nature. First he went through the mode of ignorance, then the mode of passion, then the mode of goodness, and even the mode of goodness was not enough. Because in the mode of goodness, it's still about me. In all three modes, it's about me. Of course, not me, but about you, or whoever you are. So it's all, I want to enjoy my senses grossly. I like getting angry. Or I want to enjoy getting more and more in this material world. Or I want to enjoy getting liberated. This material world is a place of suffering, and Krishna, get me out of here. That's goodness. But here, pure devotional service is being described, which means, actually, this is very similar to the verse of Ipum Sampara Dhamma Yada Bhakti Hoksajaya Haituki Pratita Yatma Suprasidati, which means there's no reason for it. You just, why do you love Krishna? I don't know. I love him. Why do you want to serve Krishna? I don't know. I love him. And if Krishna, one's happiness is of no concern. Like the gopis, especially in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, that last chapter it's mentioned, the gopi, especially Radharani, is thinking, if my misery gives Krishna happiness, then that's what I want. That's my happiness. That's pure devotional service. Pretty interesting. Not that I want to go back to Godhead, not that I want to get liberated, not that I want something for my family, not that I want enjoy my gross senses. Simply, okay, Krishna, Narayana Paraksabe Nakutastina Bibiti Swarga Pavarga Narakeshu Api Tulyarta Darshana. That the topmost devotee of Narayan, Krishna, he can go to heaven, doesn't matter. He can go to hell, doesn't matter. He can go back to Godhead or get whatever. Api Tulyarta Darshana. What the Lord wants, except for one thing. What is it a devotee won't accept?
Just to serve Krishna.
What is it a devotee won't accept?
Oh, wants that.
Even if Krishna wants him to do it.
Mukti.
Yeah. Sayuja Mukti. That's the one thing. Because in all those places, heaven, hell, Godhead, you can serve the Lord, right? Because in hell, the preaching is great. Yeah, everybody's looking for a solution, you know. You know, here in Sydney, everyone's thinking, you know, sometimes we're talking to all the young people, and they're thinking, oh, life is ahead of me. I'm going to work in the, what is this, the 585 megawatt. Go with all my cool friends and drive my cool cars. It's interesting. Anyway, but in hell, let's go to, not go to hell, but let us project ourselves in hell, our consciousness in hell. So if you're in hell, and hell's pretty bad, you can read about it in the Bhagavatam 5th Canto and other places like that. Someone's being squeezed by a sugarcane press, or you know, someone who's really lusty gets to embrace a red-hot form of the opposite gender, or nowadays the same gender, because hell is DEI. You understand DEI? You know, they're very liberal there. So, yeah, I mean, there has to be a punishment like that for people who are different inclinations. So anyway, first time you ever heard of that one, right? So anyway, but in hell, you just, you know, a devotee comes chanting and says, you know, I can free you from this, just chant Hare Krishna. Wow, let's join the movement. Immediately, you want to join the movement in hell, right? It's great. And you join. Actually, there's an interesting story in the Valmiki Ramayana, how one time Yamaraj came to, not Yamaraj, but Ravana came to challenge Yamaraj. And on the way to challenging Yamaraj, he saw all these people suffering. So even he felt compassion. So he sort of beat up the Yamadutas. So they're the Valmiki Ramayana. So he beat up the Yamadutas, and the people were relieved for a little while. Of course, as soon as he left, the Yamadutas just picked up their business and started to torture people again. So anyway, so you go to hell, preaching is great, right? You come here, the middle planet, you know, this is not Swarga for sure. Then preaching is pretty difficult. You know, people have, you know, especially young people, right? It's just like, chatting is something I'll do later. You know, I'm young, I got the whole life ahead. And then when you get older, they just, oh, I can't chant, I just have no energy, you know. Like one time a young couple came to drop their father out off at the temple, you know, say, we want our father to become a full-time devotee. Father was about 80 years old. And the father said, yeah, I'm ready to become a full-time devotee. And he said, don't, there's nothing to worry about. I left all my money to my children. And Prabhupada said, this is not a good deal. We get an old man, and he gets the money, they get the money. So sometimes people say, spiritual life is for what? When you get old. Because when you're young, there's a time and place for everything. What does Prahlad Maharaj say? Yeah, Komara Acharet Pragyo Dharmam Bhagavatam Nihat Durlabha Manasajuru Taraptar Artidam. So, because, fried him out. So, no, brought me tissues. Actually, if I keep preaching like this, you're going to need tissues. So anyway, so he says from the very beginning, and he convinced his schoolmates and everything to do that. So anyway, so the middle planets, it's quite a challenge. You can do it. You can do it because, most of us have experienced someone in our family dying. Most of us have experienced some misery. And some of us are even looking for the absolute truth, searching for knowledge. Some of us, very few people. Many people looking for wealth. So anyway, and then you go to the heavenly planets, preaching is extremely difficult. What a challenge. Everybody has mangoes as big as this building. Everyone looks good. There's no screaming babies. And sometimes, I'm on an airplane, the baby is next to me, and screaming at the top of its lungs. And what to speak of if it does something. Unspeakable. So, there's none of that. Heavenly planets, someone appears, and they appear full grown. No school. Isn't that amazing? No school in the heavenly planets.
No exams.
What?
No exams.
No exams, no assessments at your workplace, or anything like that. And of course, you do have the demons who attack from time to time. And so you become really complacent. Like Indra, he keeps learning his lesson again and again and again. He gets smashed. He goes after a sage's wife, Ahalya, and then what happens? He gets, Gautam Rishi sort of like turns him into a eunuch. Then he has to have a transplant just to get back his masculinity. And then he keeps doing the same thing. And, even Lord Brahma, he prayed for Krishna to appear, right? They went to the shore of the ocean of milk, prayed for Krishna to appear. Krishna appears, and he still steals the coward boys and calves. And Lord Indra knows better too, He has Vamana up there to advise him. But he's so crazy because of all this, Avritam Jnanametena Jnanino Javayana Kamarupena Kuntiya Dushprena Adaledaja Avritam Jnanametena. Your knowledge becomes covered by Kamarupena, by desire, personal desire. And he steals, Indra also steals the horses from different sacrifices, so no one else. Indra tries to impede the sages from their chanting. So many stories are there like that. So anyway, but a devotee thinks, if I'm sent somewhere by Krishna, then I just go on serving Krishna. Prabhupada gave the example that a devotee is he used the example of a wheat threshing machine. A wheat threshing machine means it threshes wheat, anyway, it harvests wheat. And so that's the only thing it can do. It's just a machine. Can't do anything else. So a devotee is like that, not his machine, of course, but he or she can't do anything else. Wherever they go, they serve Krishna. And they just try to please Krishna. So but in the hell, it's not in the hellish, but in the personal liberation, So usually mukti, there's no service, no consciousness, no nothing. So therefore, Prabhupada Saraswati says, Kaivalya Narakayate. That is hell for a devotee. But everywhere else is happiness. Vishram Purna Shukayate. What does that mean? The whole universe is blissful because it's an opportunity to please Krishna and serve Krishna. So that's a pure devotee's consciousness. And it's not stopped under any condition. He's in, like Prabhupada, and the final days, Prabhupada was, the body was just skin and bones, literally skin and bones. And Prabhupada was just still translating his books. His mind was completely sharp. I mean, I've been with other people at the time of leaving the body, and the mind is not that sharp at that particular point, especially when they start to get real sick, especially if they're in extreme pain. I mean, like when I had my kidney stones, my mind was just Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. Someone asked me to give a Bhagavatam class, I would just go Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram. Chant the holy names, Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna. But Prabhupada was in far worse, the body was in far worse pain. Anyway, so that's pure devotion. So the question is, how do you get there? Right now, honestly, I mean, we have all these different desires to enjoy. We want to enjoy things, we're a little bit pious. We want to enjoy things in relationship to Krishna. We want a nice smartwatch in relationship to Krishna. Dovetail. Yatara mupiyunjata nirvanda Krishna sambande yukta vairagya muchate. Like engaging things in Krishna. So we're very happy to engage things. We want the latest, smartphone. If I don't have there's the Pixel 9, if I don't have the Pixel 10 when it comes out, then I just go to my disciples and say, really, my phone is a little old. And they get the hint, Guru Maharaj, can I serve you? Anyway, like Krishna Kesava, he's just, I want to get you the latest gadgets. You're my favorite disciple. And if someone else gets it for me, he gets very upset. How would you let someone else buy the phone for you? So, anyway, joking aside, really we like to engage things in Krishna service. But a pure devotee is a pratyata, even if he doesn't have whatever paraphernalia he would like to have to serve Krishna. He goes on, like Prabhupada did. What did Prabhupada have? He just had an old typewriter. And, no money. No facility for serving Krishna. And yet he came to America with no facility, no money, no nothing. That's a pratyata. So the point is, the question is, how do you get to that point? It's really, it's scary if you think about it. Being completely dependent on Krishna and willing to serve Krishna in any circumstance, even if the whole world turns against you, even if you have not a penny in your pocket, even if you're like, this morning I was walking in the park and I saw there were actually homeless people living in their cars along the side of the park. Even if you're like that. Anyway, I mean, actually we were trained up like that when I first joined the movement. Of course, later on we succumbed to Maya. But anyway, we were trained up like that. Like as a brahmachari, I traveled all around the United States preaching in a Volkswagen Bug and sleeping in the Bug. And it's kind of hard to sleep in the Bug with a gear shift knob between your legs. So anyway, we were trained up like that to depend on Krishna. And we should also understand that Krishna is taking care of us. Krishna, like the symptoms of Sharanagati, that's really important to understand. Have no separate interests, accept everything favorable. Sorry, we got to start from the beginning. Accept everything favorable, reject everything unfavorable, understand the Lord is always maintaining one and protecting one. Being the hardest one is being meek and humble, and then having no separate interest in the Lord. And so, Prabhupada mentions this: having the oneness with the Lord, having no separate interest for the Lord. So, one gets to that point by service to someone who is at that point. That's the whole point. And we are very fortunate, even though we may not have the qualities of a great devotee, whatever, that we get an opportunity to serve Srila Prabhupada. And this is a unique opportunity, a rare opportunity. I mean, you all get an opportunity, not just me, because I'm a direct disciple of Prabhupada, but you all get an opportunity to serve a pure devotee, Prabhupada. And therefore, his qualities will rub off on you. Like you said, the sound vibration coming from the lips of a pure devotee contained within the saffron dust particles of the lotus feet of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So, it's always so simple to come to that platform. You just give yourself, your consciousness, your life, your enthusiasm, your endeavor to Prabhupada's mission. You carry out the sadhana process. And the interesting thing that's mentioned, actually, in Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary on this particular verse, which I read. Interesting thing is, that is not only the means, it's the goal. The interesting thing about pure devotional service is the means of it, which is called the sadhana, is also the sadhya. Sadhya means the goal. Interesting, sadhya. Actually, in one sense, everybody has pure devotional service according to Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Nitya Siddha Krishna Prem, Chachakoranai. You have it. It's not something you get. But you actually realize it by associating with a pure devotee and serving a pure devotee. And then that's the secret. Then you can come to this platform and it's not painful. Otherwise, if you try to put yourself artificially in the platform, it's extremely painful. You should have no other desire. You shouldn't want anything else, not even liberation, not even become free from the pain that your body is giving you. A pure devotee doesn't even pray for that. Like Prabhupada had the devotees pray, Krishna, if you so desire. He didn't have the devotees pray, please cure Prabhupada. Krishna, if you so desire. That's a pure devotee. Whereas when we experience pain, it's not, Krishna, if you so desire, it's Krishna, do it. We want to make Krishna our servant, isn't it? So anyway, so that's the secret. And in this way, you could become truly happy without worrying about whether you're going to be happy. It's a miracle. Even if you're completely miserable, you're happy. How to understand that, whatever. Because you're in love. Like if someone's in love, and that love of Krishna increases exponentially, it doesn't hit a dead end like all the love in the material world, then nothing else matters. Isn't it? Nothing, if you've ever experienced that time of infatuation and magnify that 1,000 times, or 1,000,000 times, 1,000,000,000 times, an infinite number of times, and that goes on and increases exponentially, that's Krishna consciousness. It's hard to imagine, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's hard to imagine, but then because you're in love, whatever's happened in the world, you're just trying to please your beloved. Everything you do is trying to please your beloved. All right. So any questions or comments at any of these points?
Gurudev, when we glorify Prabhupada, you know, like Prabhupacharya, like
Yeah.
he used the, you know, then there's another word that he used after that as well. I don't
Founderacharya, what other one?
know yeah, that's that one.
Paravajakacharya.
Yeah, and there's one word. Yeah, what does that mean?
Om Vishnu Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya.
Prabhupacharya, and there's another.
Paravajakacharya means one who goes all over the place.
Okay.
It's one of the stages. It's interesting. We'll analyze Prabhupada's. That's not Prabhupada's pranam mantra, but that's actually the general pranam mantra. Paramahamsa, of course, means topmost swan-like person. In other words, a swan is someone who can take the nectar even from a filthy place. That's generally the understanding. Because a swan can go in the water, and there may be other things in the water, and whatever it eats, it eats. I don't know if swans eat fish, though. Maybe. So anyway, we're not going to get into that one. So Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya. So what that verse means is that even though he's a Paramahamsa is an Uttamadhikari. Someone who is just completely immersed in Krishna's pastimes. Uttamadhikari, seeing everyone is serving Krishna. He steps down and becomes a Paravajakacharya, a wandering mendicant who preaches Krishna. He becomes a preacher. That's basically what a Paravajakacharya is. So even though he's topmost devotee, he doesn't have to do anything. He steps down. He's completely happy. He's Atmarama, self-satisfied. He comes down out of compassion. And just like, for example, you have the story of Gopakumar, who was asked by Srimati Radharani to come to the material world to preach to a Mathura Brahmin. That's in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita. So even though he's there in the spiritual world, seeing all these different things, you got to go there to preach. So he steps down from that platform to become a preacher. That's what a Paravajakacharya is. Paramahamsa Paravajakacharya. Ostotera. Eightfold. It's like a traditional glorification. Like that. So the Shima, His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. So in other words, we were saying the Prabhupada is a Paramahamsa who came to preach Krishna consciousness. That's basically what we're saying. Sometimes we say Pravishta Nitya Leela. He's entered into eternal Leela. Krishna's eternal Leela. Does that answer your question?
Yes, Guru. Thank you.
Okay. Yeah.
Goswami, you were mentioning about the different liberations, right? Salokya, Sarukya.
Yeah, the next verse actually deals with those.
Okay.
The next verse
I was
after.
trying to understand the examples of devotees, like say Narada Muni or Dhruva Maharaj.
Well, I mean, devotees have these different liberations, but they don't want them. So if a devotee wants, Salokya, then he's not a pure devotee. A devotee wants Samipya, to associate with the Lord, he's not a pure devotee. But a devotee may get that because that's what Krishna wants. In other words, a devotee will accept whatever Krishna wants. If Krishna wants him to stay in the material world, it's fine. If Krishna wants to give him Salokya liberation, that's fine. Or Sarupya, a form like that of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, that's fine. Krishna, if it'll please Krishna, yeah. But also, if Krishna wants to make me a demon so he can fight with me, that's all right too. Like you have Hiranyakashipu, Hiranyaksha. They actually understood it was Krishna's desire, and they were happy doing it. So even that's the point. If Krishna wants me to be a demon, to serve him, not just an ordinary, demon, like Ravana. He's just not an ordinary demon. He's actually a devotee. And he's serving. Chitraketu is another example. But Chitraketu, even though one sense he was a demon, he was preaching Krishna consciousness, quite different from Ravan.
Yeah.
So Ravan is one of Krishna's eternal associates. Yeah. And, even you have the Tulsi Shaligram Vivaha story, Shankachuda, right? He was a coward boy before Sudam, Sudam. Coward boy, he's eternally liberated, whatever, intimate associate with the Lord. Sudam, like if you want to be a coward boy, he's the one you follow in the footsteps of. And all of a sudden, he's a demon. And then, and not only demon, the Krishna just violates the chastity of his wife. Imagine what you have to tolerate being a devotee of Krishna. If Sudam had to tolerate that, isn't it? He gets cursed by Radharani. He was angry with Radharani because she was too rough with Krishna. And then she curses him. And then, of course, he starts crying after that. It's just, all right, you get a chance to be in the pastimes. So, it's very playful. So the point is, even if Krishna, what to speak of heaven, hell, liberation, if Krishna wants you to serve him as a demon, you've got to agree to that too. Imagine if Krishna said to you, all right, I want you to be a demon. Be a Rakshasa and eat people. Yeah, Ravan was not exactly a vegetarian. Isn't it? He's a Rakshasa. They used to eat sages, not only people. It's one thing eating aborigines, that's... Like if you got to eat people, you should eat... Anyway, sorry about this, so But it's anyways... But, like Prabhupada said, if you want to eat meat, then you should eat some lower creature, like a chicken, but not cows. But he would eat Brahmins. Amazing, isn't it? And then, if Krishna wants you to do that, you got to do that. No more Mahaprasada, no more ladus, just Brahmins for dinner, Can you imagine? That's pure devotional service. Then you got to fight with Krishna, you got to try to kill Krishna. Like Vrab fighting Hiranyaksha. Oh my God. But you're happy to do it. Because it gives Krishna pleasure. And you love him. That's the overriding thing. You love him. You want to give him pleasure. Like, sometimes a man works so hard to give his wife pleasure. So hard, day and night. Just so she smiles at him. I can't understand that. The poor guy daydreaming. And then she cooks him a little something so he'll be all right. But that's just like a perverted reflection of what happens with Krishna, the pure devotee. And it's amazing. Pure devotional service is amazing. You got to go? You have to work for your wife now.
Then I'll see you later.
If you smile at him, he'll... All right. It is quite amazing if you think about a devotee's surrender. Or like Prabhupada coming to the material world. When you're there with Krishna, everything's just beautiful. You come to this place where you got to suffer physical miseries,
And he was happy to endure.
Yeah, you have a spiritual body. It's full of eternity, bliss, and knowledge, and all of a sudden you find yourself with this thing. Isn't it? It's like, one day you're driving a Rolls Royce, the next day Just like this morning, there was a broken down car. Every time he hit a speed bump, he had to restart the car. It was actually, and that I thought it was kind of interesting. You have to, start the engine again. You see a lot of interesting things out there at 5 o'clock in the morning. So. Drunk people and things like that. Even in a weekday. So, any other questions or comments? Yeah.
Hare Krishna, Gurudev, through this verse we understand we have to have unalloyed, unadulterated devotion. But that's for the devotee. But if the devotee desires something for like someone else, like as you were saying, if someone hostile towards
you, pure devotee can bless someone else.
That's okay.
Yeah,
that's
yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, but that's compassion.
That's compassion.
But the compassion has to be based upon something spiritual.
Mm.
Obviously, a devotee doesn't want someone to suffer. If a devotee sees someone lying in the street, we're going to go to help them.
Mm.
Same time, we'll chant Hare Krishna to them. So a devotee has to be careful about mundane charity.
Mm.
We think, like probably somebody I was talking about opening up hospitals.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you can open a hospital where everything is Krishna conscious, like the Bhaktivedanta Hospital in Mumbai, where they bring the deities around to every room every day, and they have chanting on a speaker system every day. And that's really nice. And they were able to serve devotees at no cost or reduced cost. I mean, they're really nice devotees there working there. I've talked to a lot of the doctors, and they're just like enthusiastic to serve the devotees. So if you have to go to India for some surgery or something like that, go to Bhaktivedanta Hospital. They're fantastic. So anyway, but that sort of thing is that it's Krishna conscious. Prabhupada's there. Prabhupada's playing in a loudspeaker system. The deity, Jagannath comes to your room every day. Yeah, every day. They wheel Lord Jagannath deities. Not the big giant. It's like Rath Yatra every day. You can be a Muslim, but you got Lord Jagannath in your room. If you want to get cared for at Bhaktivedanta Hospital, Lord Jagannath comes and you got to eat prasadam. All the hospital food is prasadam. Normally, if you come here to a hospital food stinks, isn't it? I wouldn't give it to my worst enemy, but if you go there, it's prasadam and there's devotees. Not every employee is a devotee, but it's Krishna conscious. So that sort of hospital is all right. But if you get into mundane charity, that entangles you in this material world. The only time I would give something, money to beggars is in Vrindavan or in Govardhan. Otherwise, if a beggar comes, I give them prasadam in India, like that, because you don't know. I remember one time when I was young, before I became a devotee, I was at a train station in New York or something. A beggar came, and I gave him some money. I didn't know Krishna consciousness at that point. And then the police came up to me and said, "Don't you understand? He's going to use that money
For drugs and things like
for drugs." Or that time, people didn't know about drugs. It was alcohol. That was before BD, before drugs. It's true. I mean, people didn't take drugs when I was young, even the bums. Sorry, street people. Can't say.
Use the same technology.
You can't say bums anymore. It's not politically correct. So you would, anyway, so what are they going to use it for? Isn't it? Or so people ask me all the time about, would you donate your organs?
Yeah.
And my answer is to a devotee, if they could use it.
It's interesting because I think the government
Yeah.
here, MyGov sends emails to people registered to put their names on the Australian organ donor register.
Yeah.
So,
Or on your license or something like that. Don't they put it on the license?
Yeah,
So-
exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Become a donor.
Yeah.
Because
They don't.
that's probably when you're going to donate after you had a car accident, I suppose, where most donors come from car accidents. And so, but if you can give to a devotee, but they won't let you choose in Australia. Or if I'm going to give blood, I'll give blood to a devotee.
See, above that too, right? Blood, sometimes, we just go give blood, but then again, we don't know where the blood goes.
Yeah, you don't know where the blood goes. It might be going to Ravan or Kumbhakarna or something.
Yeah. When I thought about this, like back in, I think in 2010, I was like, nah, better I'll stop doing this.
Yeah,
Yeah.
don't, unless it's a devotee. If some devotee has type O blood,
Yeah, correct, yeah.
then we just put out a general notice to all the devotees. Any devotee here have type O blood,
Yeah.
or AB, or AB negative, or A plus,
But
whatever.
realize,
Yeah, we do that. Okay. I think everyone else ran away.
And Gurudev, since today is
Can I
Akshay
ask one
Tritiya.
question?
Yeah.
On these lines that devotees are very compassionate, and in the name of Krishna we are doing things. So now around the world we can see that there are a group of people who are killing people in the name of God.
That's very bad.
Yeah. So nothing is done without Krishna sanctioning.
Yeah.
We know that. So how is this happening? It's like in a very, very wide range. It is happening all around the world.
Krishna sanctioned it because people are getting their karma. As cruel as it sounds, something happens to someone who's not Krishna conscious. It's karma. If someone is not God conscious in some way or other, and there's a lot of animal slaughter, things like that. And we don't know where or what someone did in their past lives, to deserve this. But ultimately, if you look at this mature world, ultimately you die. Whether you die with 10,000 people during a terrorist attack, or you die individually because you're getting, cancer or something like that, it's still not a pleasant experience. Still, everyone has to go through some form of suffering. Whether I'm not saying I'm not in favor of terrorism, but basically for the individual, it doesn't make a difference. Whether you die in the hospital. So many people. Talk about terrorism. Not terrorism. In the hospital, so many people die because of misprescribed medicine. Every year, if you go around the world, it's like millions of people are dying. You talk about that because of some pharmacist. Isn't it? Or they give them too much medicine, or they give them too many antibiotics, and they get C. diff or something like that. And then we got two pharmacists here, so two agents of Yamraj. So, or doctors because of operations. Sometimes the doctors leave their scalpel inside someone by accident, isn't it? Person gets infected. So many things happen. I think that there's so many ways that people. I'm not discounting terrorism or saying that it's, but mature world is a place where these things happen, and it's a rolling disaster. Whether everyone dies at one time together, or you die individually, it's still pretty very bad. It's very bad. And obviously, when I hear about terrorism, I don't like it. We're not in favor of it. We should try, whatever to solve some of the world's problems if possible. But people are just so damn self-centered, blind, and just ready to follow some leader, or they're programmed, like many of these terrorists are actually been programmed from their very birth to do things like that. Like, in certain religion, they have these madrasas they can go to, where they just program the kids, like from they're 4 or 5 years old, to become, to hate. They program them. Unfortunately, in Christian consciousness or in Hinduism in general, we don't do that. But even in You know, even well, before in Europe, in Christianity, they were programming the Christians to hate other religions, and they were programmed to hate the Jews. We were talking about this the other day. That in Europe, they used to have this thing called the pogroms. Pogroms means where they would go into Jewish settlements and just kill people and rape the ladies and do all sorts of things like that. And the reason they did that is because people were programmed by what's called a passion plays. Anyone's heard about this before? The history of Europe. Passion play would mean during the time of Easter, they would have a play that depicted the crucifixion of Christ. And in that play, they would place the blame on the Jewish people. Yeah, we'd have the Jewish people actually not do the crucifixion. The Romans did the crucifixion. But the Jewish people actually sent Jesus Christ. There were some Jewish people who actually sent, Jesus Christ, but not all. It was the priests, the Brahmins, so-called Brahmins, who sent him to the Romans and wanted him condemned and killed. Okay, so therefore, you know, the Jews are depicted as the evil persons more than the Romans in this play that they would do in Europe. So it would rile everybody up. It would be in a theater or like a stadium, not quite a stadium. Yeah, they had like stadiums. They would do this play. So you would have hundreds or thousands of people just really angry at the Jews. And they'd go with torches into the Jewish settlements and just torture the Jews. So you find this practically in every religion, not Hinduism actually. It was interesting. It's one of the few religions, or few paths, you can't say Hinduism is a religion, but a few paths where you don't hate others, you just avoid others. Isn't it? But even in Judaism it was like that. You know, you have this statements in the Bible that every man, woman, and child village you go to when you're on the way to Palestine or the Promised Land, you're supposed to kill and, you know, everything. You know, there's a lot of religious chauvinism, which is, you know, we're better, everybody else. Like the Jewish religion, you know, we're the chosen people. You might have heard this before. You know, unless you have a Jewish mother, you're going to hell. You know, so, of course, with Hinduism, we have that to a certain extent, too. Unless you're born in a Brahmin family, there's no hope for you, you know, whatever. Or you hope to take a future birth. So we have that. But as far as terrorism, that's usually because the kids are trained up with that mentality from their very birth. And the only way to stop it is to stop these schools. You know, to stop these particular type of schools. Otherwise, you're going to have multi-generation terrorism. There's no way to stop it. And then also you have people who are very hateful because of multi-generation trauma. Like, for example, in the Balkans. Balkans means the states like Serbia, Montenegro, Croatia. You know, they know that their parents were either killed or tortured. You know, I spoke to some devotees. They were running away from the bullets were flying over them as the Serbians were shooting at them. You know, that's a more recent war. And so then there's a natural animosity between the Serbs and the Croats, you know, Croatians. Or between this is actually between different types of Christians too, because you have the Orthodox Church, and then you have the Protestants too. You know, so you have there's an animosity, and they were killing each other because of religious differences within the Christian field. You know, of course, amongst the Muslims, the Shiites and the Sunnis. So it's the training of the people and also multi-generation trauma.
But the peers pity us as well, as did it all their life, and then they actually use this trauma and in their lives in daily dealings with people as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then some people come Krishna conscious with this background as well.
Yeah, in India you have that to a certain extent because you know what Aurangzeb did.
Yeah.
You know that actually Mughals killed 80 million Hindus over the space of about 100 years. That's worse than Hitler. So a lot of people know that, and they destroyed temples. So then you have the reciprocation, so to speak, of what was done to them, and you try to do it to the other people. So you also have that there too. So that, yeah, I guess some Hindus do riot in India for that particular purpose. So, and then the Muslims reciprocate by rioting themselves, and you got a mess there. In Kashmir, for example, because that's what's in everybody's mind right now, is an interesting situation because after the partition of India into Pakistan, the Pakistani terrorists drove, and the Muslims there, drove all the Kashmiri Brahmins out of Kashmir. Because previously Kashmir was a majority Hindu state. But by terrorism, they were actually all went to the rest of India. Then became a not completely, but mostly Muslim state. And then Pakistan was taking advantage of that, to try to take it and amalgamate Kashmir and that portion of Kashmir into their country. And so that's, anyway. And so now you have all this terrorism because of that, and because the people, anyway, it's complicated. It's complicated. Children were raised as terrorists, and then the Hindus, they are traumatized by that, and whatever. It's an unending cycle of violence. As they say, an eye for an eye, a tooth for a tooth. The whole world will be blind and toothless. We'll need a lot of dentists. And opticians or whatever. Okay. Time to end. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.
Akshay Tritiya Day.
Oh yes, Akshay Tritiya today. So yeah, Chandan Yatra, Akshay Tritiya. So it's time to give gifts. Isn't that? That's what they do. We accept gold coins.